Welcome back to Parenting Village Unplugged. If you've ever battled bedtime struggles, toilet training mishaps, or endless nights of changing sheets, this episode is for you. Today we are diving into how to help your child stay dry at night, create a bedtime routine that actually works, and whether bedwetting alarms are worth all the hype and if they work. So before we jump in, I want to ask you 3 quick questions. Are you feeling lost when it comes to nighttime toilet training and wondering if your child will ever stay dry? Do you find bedtime a battle filled with frustration rather than calmness? And have you tried everything, limiting drinks, waking them up, rewards, and you still feel like nothing is actually working? If you have answered yes to any of these questions, you are in the right place today, because joining me is Angelique Woodburn from the Midnight Gang. She is an expert in helping families navigate this tricky stage with confidence, and she's here to share practical solutions, expert insights, and real strategies to make nighttime toilet training easier for you and for your little ones. So get comfy, grab a coffee, a hot chocolate, a snack, because this episode is packed with game-changing advice. So we'll dive straight in. Welcome, Ange, to the podcast today. I wanted to start with asking you a question on what inspired you to start the Midnight Gang, and what is your mission in supporting parents and children with nighttime dryness?
Yeah, hi, thanks for having me. So I started this business when my daughter was 5, and we started the toilet training nighttime journey with her. And all that I had for her bed were these plain white hospital-looking bed sheets that were stiff and not very comfortable. And I was just thinking there has to be a better option. There has to be something nicer for her bed, because being a girl too, she didn't want it on her bed because it didn't go with her pretty floral sheets. And I looked around and there was absolutely nothing. Everything was either really plasticky or was plain blue or white and looked really sterile. So I decided to start the Midnight Gang. And so I guess for us, the main mission we have is to remove the stigma of bedwetting, because it's actually so much more common than what people realize, especially in older kids. So we really wanted to remove that stigma around bedwetting and not have it something that we just need some kind of medical product, but that it can just look like a regular piece of bed linen. And as we've gone on in our business, we've realized how many kids with disabilities as well use our product, and especially for a lot longer. So we really wanted to have something that makes them feel special and that their room's a beautiful place and not filled with these medical looking products. So that's where it started.
That's such a beautiful story, and I have like flashbacks of working in a hospital, and I remember those old dry drawer sheets, we used to call them in the hospital. I know exactly what you're talking about, and it's so, I've seen your designs, I see what you've made, and I'm actually at the stage with my little boy. He's 4 at the moment, and we're going through that whole stage of seeing if he can stay dry overnight. So I probably need to get some of your products. So I think this discussion is, it's a really good one to have today. But yeah, I really love your story. I think the next question I really wanted to dive in is, how can parents tell if their child is actually ready for, I guess, nighttime toilet training, and what are some, like, I guess, if you know, some key developmental signs to look for in regards to that?
So the very first thing, it might sound obvious, but they need to be toilet trained during the day. So they need to be really completely have mastered that. So not having accents during the day, and they've mastered toilet training during the day. And then the second thing is, are they having dry nappies? So usually you'll start to see a period of maybe a few days where their nappy's dry. And so we usually say, once the nappy's been dry for around a week, then you can start taking it off and seeing how they go. So that's probably the first sign that they're ready to start nighttime toilet training.
Awesome. My little boy has been dry for like a few days, on and off though. It hasn't been a whole week. And I've been contemplating whether it's time to actually take the dive and take the pull-ups off and give it a whirl. He's actually excited and he's ready. He's actually said to me, he's like, Mummy, I want to wear undies to bed. So I think we're at that stage now, it's exciting as a mum, but it's quite daunting. And I think we'll dive into a bit more about your products and what they actually do and what they're for.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I was just going to say,
I
you
really
brought
wanted
up a
to
good point
ask, yeah,
too, that also when kids are showing interest, that's another really good sign that they're starting to get ready. When they're saying that they want to take off their nappy, they don't want to wear it anymore. So when they're showing that motivation and interest themselves, that's another really good sign that maybe it's time.
yeah, that's such a good point. And I think you really need to take like your child's cues and your child's readiness on board as well with that, and give them that independence and that autonomy with like their body to know like I'm ready. Like trust me, let's do this, mum. I really wanted to dive into the next question, which is, what are the most common struggles parents face when trying to help their child stay dry at night, and how can parents overcome those challenges?
Yeah, so again, it might sound obvious, but I think the biggest challenge is literally having wet beds in the middle of the night. I think a lot of parents are hesitant to start because often there's younger siblings, and the thought of having to get up in the middle of the night to change beds isn't very appealing. So I think that's probably one of the biggest things that stop people from doing it. And I know for myself, even when kids have had gastro and then you've had to strip the entire bed in the middle of the night and no one knows where the sheets are, and getting those corners over the mattress is a nightmare. So that's why, we developed this product too, so that it removes all of that. So it's just a pad that goes on top of their sheet that tucks under the mattress, and they sleep on that. So if they do have an accident, they literally just whip it off and all the sheets and beds stay made and dry. And I think that really helps kind of relieve a lot of that kind of pressure, thinking, okay, bed changes are going to be a matter of seconds as opposed to, this long drawn out process. So I think that's one of the biggest things, is just that night after night having accidents and washing piling up. So something like, what we've got really helps with that, because then you're only washing the bed mate. You're not having to wash the sheet and the fitted sheet and the mattress protector. So I think that's something that really helps parents.
100%. And as a mum, I think I speak for all parents, is that's what we want. We want something that's easy and simplified and not going to take us forever overnight to change. And yeah, what you have said, it really takes that pressure away, and that it's like a mental kind of load as well. That another thing that we have to add on top of like all of the lists that we do as parents. And I guess the product that you have created just has revolutionized that and simplified it for parents, making it so much easier and really taking that pressure away. So hats off to you guys for making such an incredible product. Um, I'd really like for you to walk us through an ideal bedtime routine for the children and for parents that really would help support dry nights and help children, I guess, settle down for bedtime and for sleep.
Yeah, so I think the first thing is, when you mentioned before limiting drinks. So this is a bit of a misconception as well. We don't want to limit fluids, but at the same time, we do want to encourage kids to do most of their drinking during the day. So we don't want to kind of let it get to bedtime and they haven't had enough during the day, so then they are really thirsty. So we do want to be encouraging kids to drink as much water as they can during the day, so they are fully hydrated and don't need to have as much at night, which also helps with constipation, because if they're not drinking enough water, then that can lead to constipation, which actually makes bedwetting worse. So definitely try and encourage them to drink as much during the day, but also when it does get to bedtime, don't freak out about drinks, because it can cause a bit of anxiety with parents and kids thinking, oh, I can't drink now, I'm not allowed to drink, and then it makes them even more thirsty, because it's actually not the fluids as well that's causing the bedwetting. Because if you think about it, for us as adults, if I have a cup of tea before I go to bed, or 2 cups of tea, then I wake up during the night because I need to go. It doesn't mean I'm going to wet the bed, but it just means that I'll probably have to go during the night. So it's not so much that they're having fluids, because then they would just wake up if they needed to go. It's the fact that they're not waking up. So don't limit fluids, to be too concerned with that, but at the same time, encourage them to drink during the day. But with bedtimes, it's really important that you start a good couple of hours before you actually want them to go to bed. So we start our routine. If we want them in bed by 8, mine are a bit older now, we start the bedtime routine around 6. So that kind of means turning devices off, turning TVs off, starting to kind of calm down in our conversation. So preparing in our minds, the kids don't know that we're doing it, but preparing that, we're now starting to wind down for the night. Even things like putting some background music on, lighting some candles and dimming the lights just starts to subconsciously kind of get everyone into that frame of mind. Making sure before we go into the bedroom that all the busy things are done, whether they need to do their reader or, they've got something for school or kinder, that everything's done. And then as soon as they go into the bedroom, that's a really quiet space. So we want to kind of do all the brushing the teeth and things that can get very rowdy especially when there's a few kids, do all that kind of stuff first. And then as soon as they go into the bedroom, have the lights already dimmed. Story time is just so important. And my son is 12 this year and he still gets us to read with him every night. So it's a really nice, calming and bonding thing that we can do. So I'll often walk in and my husband's lying next to his bed reading to him. So those kinds of quiet things together. But then just before they're going to go to sleep and you're about to turn the lights out, get them to go to the toilet right before they go to bed, and then pop them back into bed and tuck them in. So encouraging them to go to the toilet before they go to bed obviously will really help as well.
Yeah, I love all of those tips that you just said, and I'll put my hand up. I'm 100% guilty of worried about giving my little ones too much water before bed because of this exact reason. But obviously I don't limit water or anything like that because I 100% believe it's their body, they're in control of how much water they can drink at the end of the day. But yeah, I didn't know that was actually a big myth, and it's very understandable. As an adult, I get up to go to the toilet if I have a big drink before bed. I think it's just it's a biological normal thing that our body actually does. So really good tip there. And I love how you spoke about routine, because as a child and family health nurse, I am such big on routine, and I can't stress it enough. It's so good for building not only, I guess, that trust with your child and them knowing what to expect next. It just helps the process of bedtime be that little bit easier. And we do the exact same thing. We start our bedtime just after dinner time. We'll go upstairs, we'll do the bath, we have massage, we have reading time. We make it really quiet, really mellow, getting them ready for bed. And exactly that, we take them into the room, we'll read them a beautiful book, bedtime, dim lights. I love all of those tips that you really suggested there. Amazing. The next question I wanted to ask you is about one of your products I think you sell, which is in regards to alarms. And I wanted to know, how do bedwetting alarms work, and are they effective for all children, and are there any best practices for using those devices?
Yeah, so bedwetting alarms have been around for ages, but I think in the 70s is when they first started. And I actually used one when I was a kid in the 80s, not 70s. And the reason that we stopped bedwetting alarms is because, again, with my son, so he was 10 last year. And he was still waking up every night with a really full nappy. And it wasn't bothering him so much because I think it's just what he'd always done. And he didn't have sleepovers at people's houses except my parents, which he was fine about. But then school camp was coming up. And so then that really started to make him think, okay, I don't want to wear a nappy at camp, and what happens if I have an accident and things like that. So we took him to get some medical checks to make sure there was nothing else kind of going on. They did find that he had a bit of constipation, which we were really surprised about, which, as I said before, can actually cause or impact bedwetting. But once that we got all that cleared up, he was still having, really heavy nappies. So then we decided to give the bedwetting alarm a try, and it completely changed our lives and his. And it's why we then decided, well, we need to stock this because it obviously goes hand in hand with our products. And there's lots out there on the market. And so essentially all bedwetting alarms work in the same way. The only difference with the bedwetting alarms is they all have slightly different features. So basically, you attach it to the child's undies, or there are the pad alarm, so they can sleep on a pad. And then as soon as the alarm detects any moisture, then it sets an alarm off. So the idea is that as soon as you're producing urine, that it will wake you up, and so make that connection between the brain and the bladder that, as soon as I feel like I'm going to the toilet, I need to wake up. And that's the biggest issue with kids wetting the bed. Majority of kids, it's that their brain and their bladders just aren't speaking to each other. So they just need their brain to talk to their bladder and to say, okay, I'm going to wake you up because now you need to go to the toilet. So that's what the alarm does. It just helps that signal to happen. And so the thing with this alarm and why we loved it is it's a tiny, tiny little device. It just clips onto or sticks onto the outside of their undies, but there's no cords. A lot of them have cords, or they're quite kind of uncomfortable and intrusive. This is so tiny that they can't feel it. And the best thing about this one that I loved as well is that you can customize the alarm sound. So it's got like a normal alarm, a rooster sound, or you can actually record your own voice. And they've actually done studies to show that kids don't wake to shrill alarms, they're called. So that's things like fire alarms and stuff like that. And I can absolutely attest to that because we were actually on holiday in Noosa one time, and the whole hotel's alarm went off, and it's so incredibly scary. And it was in the middle of the night, and I ran into the kids' rooms and they were all fast asleep. They didn't even wake up. So, and they've actually done studies to show that that's the case, that what kids do wake to is the sound of their parents' voice. So I was able to record my voice on the alarm. And so, you do it in a really high-pitched, excited way. So I'd say, Leo, it's time to wake up. And that would then wake him up. And it was probably about 2 or 3 weeks when we saw our first dry night. And by about 6 or 7 weeks, he was completely dry. So we are huge advocates of bedwetting alarms. And interestingly, still today, a lot of peds and a lot of GPs will still recommend kids start alarm training from about 7, because before that, they consider it normal, and they consider that a lot of kids will just naturally grow out of it. But what the continence nurse specialists are saying is that pretty much as soon as a child has mastered toilet training, they're actually ready to do nighttime toilet training. So a lot of continence nurse specialists are now saying you can actually use the alarm from 4 or 5, and actually the earlier that you start treatment, the easier it is for them to stop bedwetting, and the longer you leave it, the harder it is. So there is some conflicting advice out there about what age to start. But what I've seen with my customers is people who do wait till they're kind of 7 thinking maybe they will just grow out of it. They don't. And so then they get the alarm. So I think the best thing with the alarm is that it's no harm trying it. It's, it's not going to do any harm giving it a go. But if it does work, and they say 93% of kids it does work for, then, you may as well give it a go. And what some people do as well is they might try it for a few weeks. And if it's not really working, or they think, no, my child's not ready, this isn't really working, they can pop it away, and 6, 12, 18 months later, try it again. So that's something you can do too.
Yeah, it's like it's something you can always come back to if it's not quite working at that particular time. I didn't know that about like emergency alarms, that actually children don't really respond to that. That's so intriguing to know, especially in, I guess, my line of work in like medical fields and whatnot. That's really, really intriguing to know. And I think I'll need to do a little bit more research around that. But yeah, really good to know.
a story to look up with that, and this is where I found out about it. There was a story in the UK, and a dad turned the I'll have to look it up, but he turned the alarms off because he wanted to, and then he set a fire. It sounds bizarre, but he set a fire in the foyer of their house and turned the alarms off. And he wanted to come into the house and pretend to be a superhero and save them. But oh no, he didn't turn the alarm off. Anyway, I'll need to find the story. But the alarm was going off. I think he accidentally locked the door, and the alarm was going off. But the children slept through the alarm, and he couldn't get into the house, and it ended in tragedy. And it was since then that they've done these studies to realize kids often don't wake to shrill alarms, they call them. So it was this tragic, tragic story. But that's where the alarm, the bedwetting alarm, people were telling me about that and saying that, yeah, often that's not the best alarm for kids to wake up to. So, yeah, it's crazy.
That is so crazy. We'll have to maybe find the story and we can pop it in the show notes
Yeah.
as a link for people to be able to read up on that. Yeah, wow. Yeah, that is crazy, but it's good that the bedwetting alarms you can use, I guess, as soon as you feel like your little one is ready, really, once they're fully toilet trained during the day. Yeah, such a good good device to use. I think something that I might actually implement with my little boy to see if we can get those dry nights happening. But besides alarms, what are some actual natural other ways and practical ways that parents can support their child in staying dry overnight?
There's actually another business that I really love called I think they're called Stay Dry at Night. But Ginny runs that, and she actually, it's like a hypnosis program. So she actually sends a recording to the family. I think there's three. We did it with Leo at the beginning. There are three recordings, and she can customize it to your child and what they're interested in. But it's actually like listening to a guided meditation, and it's a form of NLP. Is that the neuro linguistic programming? Um, so that's what she does. And so
Yeah.
that's a really gentle, natural approach if you wanted to try something before the alarm. A lot of parents really like that idea because it is quite gentle. So that's something else that you can try as well. And she has a money back guarantee as well. So, and she has some other tips too. She can give parents like some exercises before bed to help everything kind of move properly in their tummies. So that's something else that you can try as well.
Yeah, perfect. I think we'll tag her in the show notes as well because that sounds really, really good. I actually believe in NLP and hypnosis and all of that stuff because I feel like it's going to that deeper level of the subconscious brain to be able to rewire all of everything that's happening there on a scientific level. But yeah, rewire that belief, and then obviously our gut talks to our brain, as you already said. It talks to our brain, so rewiring those neurons, those transmitters, and all that kind of stuff. It can really, I guess, yeah, help in that sense. I love that recommendation. If a child, I guess, was to start wetting the bed again after a period of dryness, let's say, what should parents do to address this without, stress or shame towards themselves and towards the child?
Yeah, so I think the first thing to understand is, and with any kind of milestone that kids often will reach, that regressions are a normal part. And we all know with sleep, that's something that just happens. There are times where they will regress. So just, I think, being prepared from the outset that that may happen, but also having a look at what's going on at that time. Is there a new baby that's come into the family? Has mum or dad got a new job? Has there been a big change in the family? And looking at maybe, can you figure out why? Is there a reason there might be a regression? Have they started school and are really tired? And then if there is, then I think that would kind of, let you know that it will probably fix itself in time. Maybe it's just that time. And maybe around that time, they might need some extra support because there has been a big change. If there's nothing and you can't figure out why, then giving it a couple of weeks just to see if it does rectify itself. But if not, then you can either use the alarm again if you'd already used it, or you could start trialing the alarm and see if that can help. So it's very normal for regressions, but I would give it a couple of weeks and just, always, we're always really passionate about telling parents to be so supportive and encouraging of their kids and talk about it openly. And just as you would if they're learning to ride a bike or if they're learning to read, that it's just a normal part of being a kid and that everyone has to go through it. And if they have regressions, that is normal too. And that can happen and that's absolutely fine. And we'll work it out together, and really making sure there is no stigma or shame or any of those feelings attached with it, and that it's just completely normalized. And I think that's something we did with our son. Even though he was older, we'd just say, oh, Leo, can you go grab your nappy? It's time for bed now. And just, making it not something like, oh, go get your nappy, making him feel like he needs to hide it. And that's probably why he got so late before he wanted to do anything, because he didn't really feel like there was a problem. So I think that's really important too.
Yeah. Yeah, that positive communication and those positive affirmations towards a child, 100%. So important in their belief and their courage. And yeah, it's so important as a parent to really do that. And also really hyping up when when they are achieving these massive milestones, and using all of those positive affirmations, communication, and all of those good words that really build their strength and their resilience. And also, yeah, it just helps, build that. I can't think of the word that I'm trying to think of here, but it helps build their confidence as a person, as a child. So it's beautiful using that positive language towards your child, and not focusing on the negatives, because it's not a negative, as you said. It's a normal part of life for regressions to happen. And when we're older, we go back usually into diapers, and that's just, it's a regression. It's what happens in life, and it's so important to not put any shame on yourself as a parent or towards your child. So yeah, I love those tips. Thanks for sharing all of that. How can parents help?
Just letting them know too that it's actually nothing that they can do. Like, so letting them know that it's just like the other night, my son woke up and he had a blood nose. He can't control that. That's not something he could stop. Or if they wake up in the middle of the night and they vomit, things like that, that's nothing that they can control. And so same with bedwetting. They can try all they want, and they can try so hard, and you can have all the sticker charts in the world, but when they're asleep, they're not in control of that. So letting them know it's not you. It's what's going on inside your body when you're sleeping, and that's actually not you, and it's not something you're doing right or wrong. It's just what our body's doing. And if we sweat during the night, we can't stop that or control it. So just letting them know and kind of letting them off the hook that this isn't actually about your effort. So you're not failing, or you're not trying hard enough because you're asleep. You actually can't control these things.
Yeah, perfectly said. I think that really answers the next question I was going to ask you, which was helping children who might feel embarrassed or discouraged about bedwetting, how to build their confidence and, I guess, their resilience. And I think you just answered that perfect right there. Like, it's not them. It's like this is their body, and they definitely can't control what is happening overnight. And yeah, you hit the nail on the head with that. But do you feel like do you have any other, I guess, strategies you could share to really, I guess, encourage children and help them not feel embarrassed about bedwetting overnight? Especially, like, sometimes I have nephews who have been a little bit older, who were still in nappies, but this was a little while ago, and they're a bit embarrassed about having a sleepover, or embarrassed about, bedwetting. And I'm just, yeah, if you have any tips you could share in regards to that, that would be beautiful.
Yeah, well, I think it's kind of going on with what I was saying before, but even things like even reading books and things at home about that's not even related to bedwetting. We've got some books, and I'm sure lots of people know about them, about, everybody's a good body and all those kinds of books that really highlight everyone's uniqueness and how everyone is good at different things. Everyone can do different things. Our bodies are made differently. And kind of reading those books as a general family thing anyway, but then it can kind of help with that too. And showing them, finding things that maybe they could do sooner than their siblings, because when there are siblings in the family, it's, subconsciously it is in their mind a bit of a competition, because, my son would say, or a comparison, my son would say, but my sister's younger than me and she doesn't wear nappies. And so that's really hard when they're seeing for themselves, well, they don't do it. And so getting them, and we would say things like, yeah, but you learned how to ride a bike earlier than she did. Your body was able to learn that before she could. So that's something your body was made for, and your body could do that. But it took her a lot longer to learn that. And so kind of really normalizing that we all do things at different rates, and it's to not compare, which is really hard for siblings, because it's just a natural thing that they will do, but finding things that your child could do before the others could do, I think really helps as well.
Yeah, no, that's a beautiful tip as well. You touched on a little bit there that your daughter learned how to stay dry overnight before your older son. Have you ever seen a correlation with girls being able to actually stay drier quicker than boys?
Yep, 100%.
I don't know if that's a thing.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
The amount of boy requests and questions that I get, it's by far more boys. I've got 3 kids. The eldest and youngest are girls, and the middle is a boy. And both my girls, both at around 5, just went dry. We took their nappies off and they never had an accident. And that it just naturally, that's what happened. But my son, as I said before, was 10. And there is definitely research out there that suggests that boys do wet longer than girls, and do require more assistance in helping their brain and bladders to talk, so they're not wetting at night. So it's definitely a thing.
Yeah, I have heard the same thing as well. So I thought I'd ask you that little sneaky question there. And I have heard there is like a lot of research that suggests that as well. I don't know much about it myself. Maybe something we could dive into, or maybe put something in the show notes in regards to that. But I really wanted to touch on, I guess, some tips for parents who might be navigating travel or camping or sleepovers with their child that actually still experience nighttime wetting, and how could they navigate that?
So I think with traveling or caravanning with yourself, I think that's a bit easier to deal with, because it's your own family, and that's when things like our bedmates are, like, we take them every holiday we go on. We bring a bedmate with us, even though my kids aren't wetting the bed now. If they wake up and they do have a blood nose, or they've got gastro and we're staying in an Airbnb or in a hotel, then the bedmate just protects you from ruining the mattress and then causing all sorts of headaches. And especially in the caravan as well, trying to wash a caravan mattress when you're camping would be an absolute nightmare. And thank goodness we haven't had to do that. So we bring our bedmates on those kinds of things, even at their grandparents' place, just that peace of mind that their mattresses aren't going to get wet. But I think when it comes to friend sleepovers or school camps, that's when it's a whole another kettle of fish. I think the most important thing is to be open and honest with the adults. So whether it's the parents of the friends or the teachers. And that's a really hard one, because the kids themselves don't want anyone to know. But especially when it comes to school things like camps, the teachers are all over this. They've experienced it before. They have things in place. They know about it. So it's really important to be open and honest with them, so that they're on board and they can really help support too. And often they'll have their own ideas or some tips that they can give to help support your child. And so when we were faced with this, Leo had only been dry for probably a month or 2 before school camp. So he was still really, really worried that something might happen. So we went through all the scenarios. We thought of, bringing a spare sleeping bag, all these different things, but everything for him made it too obvious. He said, yeah, but why am I the only one bringing 2 sleeping bags? But I don't want to wake up if it's wet, because people might know if it's wet. So we went through every scenario, and what we came up with personally for our family that worked was we decided that a night nappy, a pull-up or whatever, was probably the most discreet option for him, because he was really worried about, even though there are things you can put liners in sleeping bags and stuff like that, he just didn't want that at all, because you might see the liner, or if you bought a bed mate, people would be like, what's that? So what we did was, I thought I'd bring it to show you. We had just a black toiletries bag, and inside the toiletries bag, I got some black doggy bags, because they're the only black plastic bags I could find. And I tucked them into one of the pockets that had a zip. So when it was bedtime and we put one of the pull-ups in the black plastic bag, then in here, because then if you were to open it and someone accidentally saw in your bag, you wouldn't see the black plastic bag or what was in it. So then when it was time for bed, he would take that with him into the bathroom and say, I'm going to put my pajamas on now and have a shower, whatever. Then he put it on under his pajamas, because then they have to get straight into bed anyway. So then he put it on, and they're so discreet, the nappy pants these days, and jumped into bed. And then that way, in the morning when he woke up, he knew he was going to be dry, so he could be relaxed that his bedding would be dry. And then he took his toiletries bag with his clothes into the bathroom, and then he took it off, put it back in the black plastic bag and put it in here. And then this was kept in his bag anyway. So that for us was what made him feel the most comfortable. And so I think whatever you do decide, whether it is to pack a spare sleeping bag or a sleeping bag liner, I think the best thing is to practice at home. So we actually would put the sleeping bag on the floor, and I'd say, okay, so imagine now you're getting up out of your sleeping bag, and now you've got to get up and go into the ensuite of the little bathroom. So let's show me how you do it. And he'd practice getting the bag, practice how he'd put it in. And so practicing at home a few times really helped him to think, okay, yep, I feel like this is going to be good. This will be the best way of doing it. So whatever you choose to do, I think practice at home, do that role play a little bit. But the other thing, what he could do now, we're actually bringing out a new product in a couple of months that we didn't have for him. And it's basically just a waterproof fitted sheet. And so might sound basic, but most people these days have a waterproof mattress protector, and then they need the fitted sheet on top of that. So our product is 2-in-1, so you don't need a mattress protector. So this looks and feels exactly like a fitted sheet. It's cotton woven fabric. It just feels like a sheet, but it's waterproof, which is what they have at camps anyway on the beds. But what you can also say with that too is that it protects the mattress from night sweats, from allergens, from dust mites. So they could, if someone happened to notice on the backside that maybe it's waterproof, you could say, yeah, Mum doesn't want me breathing in the mattress because you get dust mites. So this is the one that, she wanted me to bring. But it just looks and feels like a regular fitted sheet. And kids either can bring a sleeping bag or a fitted sheet to camp. So that's something that they could bring, and then no one would know that it's for bedwetting. So, yeah.
Wow, that's actually so exciting, because I'm just picturing my little one was sick the other night. He was vomiting, and we obviously had to take the waterproof protected sheet that goes underneath. We had to take it all off. And here I am just putting a little towel down now underneath the sheet, and it's just not the same. So that's actually such a good product, such a good idea. I think that's going to be a game changer for parents. And I loved how you actually modeled with your little one the steps of what to do at camp, like from the get-go. Like, here's your toiletry bag, what do you do? And actually walking that through with him, like really building his confidence, his resilience, and knowing that he's got it. Like, it builds such strong human beings, such strong little ones. And yeah, I absolutely love that you modeled that with your kids. And yeah, such good tips about having it discreetly in a toiletry bag and hidden in the little black plastic bags. I really like that. So hats off to you. Such a great job, honestly. I wanted to ask you one last question, and it's just in regards to what is one key piece of advice that you could tell parents in regards to making, I guess, nighttime toilet training easier, or anything that you can think of, what would that one piece of advice be for parents out there?
I would probably say don't listen to other people. Don't worry about what other kids are doing and what other families are doing, and know that it is so incredibly normal and common for kids to be wetting the bed well through their primary school years, and to know that it won't last forever. And even if they seem old to you, that they will get through it and they will get past it. And it's to just, I really, really want parents to remember that, because I get so many people who say to me, oh, my mother-in-law says I should be dry by now, or all my mother's group, their kids are all toilet trained, no one's wetting the bed at night. And for some reason, us as mums talk about everything but this. For some reason, this is a milestone that people just don't talk about. It still has that stigma attached. So just to know, you are absolutely not alone. So many kids still wet the bed, and it's nothing to be concerned about. It's nothing to worry about. All kids go through it. And no matter how old they are, even if they are 5, 6, 7, 8, that it's fine and they will get through it. And there are ways to help them. And it's not a reflection on anything other than their brains and their bladders just aren't talking to each other. I will say sometimes that there can be underlying health issues. So, it is always best to make sure you do go and get checked at the GP and make sure there's nothing underlying. But otherwise, it's such a common thing. And so just take the pressure off yourself, take the pressure off your kids, and know that it's not like toilet training during the day. Some people say, oh, this weekend we're going to toilet train during the day. You can't do that with nighttime training. It's unless you've got the alarm, it is something that will just kind of naturally happen for most kids. And then the ones who doesn't, that's when you can look at the alarm. But don't put pressure on yourself or your kids, and just know they will get through it, and it's completely a normal part of growing up.
Such great advice, and that actually helps ease my own anxiety as a parent in regards to this topic, because I'm in the depths of it at the moment. So thank you so much for sharing all of those tips, all of those wisdoms, and it definitely is so important as a parent to know that it's never a reflection of your parenting. And yeah, it's so important to remember that. And Facebook groups are filled with advice that is kind of condescending and oversaturated, and it can be a bit of a market that we do compare. So it's important, just to know that you're not alone 100% in this journey, and it's not a reflection of you. You're a good parent, you're a good mum, you're a good dad. But yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, Ange. That was such an incredible conversation, and I hope that everyone that is listening to this podcast, that you have got some really good practical tips, reassurance to make bedtime and nighttime dryness, I guess, that little bit easier for yourself and for your little ones. And thank you again, Ange, for coming on from the Midnight Gang, for coming on, for sharing all of your wisdom. I really hope you guys find this episode really helpful. Don't forget to subscribe and share it with other fellow parents, and leave a review so we can reach more families out there just like yours. And yeah, for more resources, you can check out the Midnight Gang. That's your website, isn't it? The Midnight Gang, and that's on socials as well. Is that right, Ange?
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. I'll pop all of the links to Ange and the Midnight Gang in the show notes, so you can go check out her website and all of the products that she has shared about today. I know I'm going to go and buy some of them today because they sound amazing. I can't wait for the new product that you are launching. But until next time, guys, thank you so much, Ange.
Thanks so much, Clarinda. Appreciate it.
All right, bye, everyone.